you guys right now.
Thank you very much for that, Cax. I get verbose again, Rebel.
Yeah.
And you get
come running
chatted up even more.
I do get more. I'll give you another one. You're verbose and you're also erudite. How's that sound?
Oh, I like the sound of that. I do just want to start off this game because there was a certain player last game that really popped off, and for some reason I wasn't calling him by his name. Yardo, this time around on the Ari, looking to pop off once again. I apologize for getting your name wrong in the previous game, but let's get some more highlight plays.
Yeah, absolutely. Today, Yato, unfortunately, you've picked the wrong day to play Ari because Faker played Ari for the first time in a very long time, or actually, he's played it a couple times this season, but it was an amazing performance just this morning. And I know this because Nymera decided to tweet about it just as fast as humanly possible, collecting as much Ari content as he can. I'm convinced there's not an Ari game on Earth that he doesn't watch. So... this is going to be put directly up against the tape of Faker this morning, so I am expecting very high things from Yato in this game.
Well, I mean, game one, I don't want to call it Faker-esque, but it was definitely going in that direction. And SBTC have gone for quite a standard composition. I feel like here, again, a sort of thing. You can play out the mid-game just fine. And for Cerberus, it's something a little bit more chaotic.
Yeah, Cerberus have themselves drafted, I think, a more complex, in terms of draft and in terms of team fight, a team like that. Because you look at the other team and it's pretty simplistic, right? You have ball delivery system with big AoE, you have shockwave, and then you've got AoE ADC. That's like the most basic of combinations. The only thing you're missing is like a Jarvan in this somehow.
Do you know what this is, Rebel? This is me and my mates in gold and plat queuing up for Clash going, how can we build the best composition that we possibly can?
This is exactly like the stock standard of what people think when they think 5-on-5 composition. Ball delivery, Orianna, big AoE, like ADC. Then on the other side, you have a lot of differences, right? Because you've got tons of pick potential for Yato. You got this incredible siege potential from the likes of Artemis in the bottom side. And then you've got Pos in this counter matchup in the top side as well, up against Enper's very talented, very solid Camille that showed its head in the previous game as well. It was doing well in that game as well. So it's a matter of Cerberus really wanting to play A2. I love that Yolwei used the term hands because they did show they were really good players in the previous game. And this is another example where, again, their individual skill can really come to light very heavily with a composition like this.
And someone that kind of had a bit of a disappointing game last time out was DNK's, reprising his role on the Hecarim and never really got going, I think, to a full-on, to sort of the proper degree that we wanted to see. Starting off with a gank in the here, but one being in the area, two not quite in range of the spectrum wall, so nothing ends up happening.
Yeah, instead, both junglers just kind of pass like ships in the night through the mid lane, and they're both hanging around a little bit longer, too. Neither one of them wants anything else. In fact, one spouts out Palette. Here's DNK back in the mid lane, but unfortunately, again, Yato's got the charm, able to run away with the W. Palette is not there ready with the hook immediately, and so because of that, Yato just soaks a bunch of pressure for absolutely nothing. It also allows for a slightly faster back timer here for Fook 1, which gets him onto the sheet a little bit quicker. If he could keep DNK on the map, all of a sudden, any interaction between the two, the Viego is going to feel fine.
So, Rebel, we saw a couple of solo kills from Yardo in the previous game onto Tutti. Do you think we're going to be seeing something similar time around?
I don't think it's impossible. Ari's got some really impressive damage. The changes they made to her made her feel incredible and they made her feel strong, and it didn't actually take that much, which was kind of cool. And now the champion, I don't think it's perfectly situated to try to challenge an Orianna if 2T's playing it properly. But the way that Yato played in the previous one, I don't think that was actually, it's not often you could say a Sylas is going to be finding a bunch of solo kills into a Vigar, yet there it was in the previous game. So I'm not going to leave anything on the table.
And they saw how strong Yardo was, so they want to pressure him away. That's a free flash taken, but the charm actually under the tower onto Pallet. That is a crucial flash. If he didn't get that one off, if he takes one more tower down for first blood, and that's not how SBTC want to be starting this one off.
Not in the slightest. Importantly, right there, I think it was Yato's mana bar that really kind of restricted what happened. Because obviously, Palette going under the tower was not the play. The W that came in from Pook 1 wasn't quite enough. But if a Charm is there as well, and you throw that into the mix, then there's almost certainly an execution onto Palette, whether he flashes out or not. You could just follow up with the rest of your abilities to come through. But fortunately for him, there was not enough mana in the back pocket of Yato. So waiting for that itemization to come through, get onto the Lost Chapter, that kind of thing. The Corrupting Pot's going to get refilled. The Sork Shoes are actually here as well, which prompts for Yato to really want to dump damage into Tutti just as fast as he can.
DNK thinking about potentially getting a play off on the bot side there. We'll just go back instead as Fuquan is entering the top side. Emperor has the Hextech ultimatum should he wants to use it, but it's just a bit of chip damage for the Jaeger, but he's actually going to turn it around on Fuquan. The flash comes.
Wow.
Oh, that was damn close, but ultimately Cerberus come out ahead.
Yeah, that last auto attack coming out from Emperor was nearly the death sentence onto the Yofuk 1 here on the Viego, but thankfully Pos jumping in, getting the stun, getting the auto attack, and then also the kill, getting the shadow prevented any additional damage from coming through at the last possible tick, which was rather nice, meant that his jungler was safe from the play. It was about as close as it could get, challenging the level 6 Camille, not always the greatest of plans. Emperor clearly showing proficiency of the champion, but a play that works out nonetheless. I want to see this back. I don't know if the actual end goal of this was so it's super easy for Fuq 1 to actually take, because this was humongous. Look at that upfront damage from Camille. Okay.
That was pretty gross.
Yeah.
Apparently that's a late game champion, by the way.
Apparently, if that's the case. When this champion gets onto like Cinder and then you throw a Death Stance into the mix, I feel like AD champions just cannot fight her in the slightest.
Oh, it becomes incredibly difficult. Pos has teleported back up to this top side, picked up the plated steel cats for himself. He's already in this counter matchup, still scared of the damage that Emperor's going to be able to put out. Did pick up a turret plate as well, so is fairly accelerated on the Jax as it stands. We'll have to see how that pans over. We did have a fight in the mid lane, though.
Oh, actually, yeah, Fuq 1 getting run down by Palette. The Ignite actually certainly gets the kill right there as 2T unfortunately missed the shockwave. It is just going to be a kill in the back pocket of the Nautilus. So a little bit of shenanigans back and forth in this mid lane. Yato trying to use that ultimate and the charm to the best of his abilities to get that kill onto 2T. Breaking out the Ahri is a great strategy. I'd like to see more of that. I know Fuq 1 did not find success right there, but again, if you're able to get Ahri onto 1-2 kills and you start into some of the better itemization for the champion, she can do some really crazy things when it comes to damaging. And especially if you can play into your bottom side, get Artemis going, that is the definite recipe for success here for the side of Cerberus.
And I think that's why SBTC have been funneling so many resources, so many ganks towards this mid lane. They really don't want Yato to have a repeat of his game 1 performance. They don't want him to be freed up on the mat to make these roams, to enable Artemis, who was so oftentimes in that game 1. Instead, though, we'll go towards this top side, help out Fuquan, take out this Rift Herald, pop that down somewhere, maybe top, maybe mid, get a couple of plates onto a carry.
And it's interesting because at this point in the game, if you put a little bit more resource into Pos, it feels like that top lane just kind of wins itself and you don't need the Rift Herald up there. But the Rift Herald could put him into that position in the first place. Breaking the turret actually means that all of a sudden the Camille really does gets to interact more with the map. The wave gets shoved up a little further. It kind of buys time for Emperor. And Ajax doesn't really accomplish that much on a map. So while it is gold in the pockets of Pos and Fuq 1, I feel like this is better situated for the Ahri just because, again, breaking down the mid lane turret is so much more important than the top lane. I know it's going to net them a lot more here because it seems like Fuq 1 and Pos can even potentially make the dive happen against Emperor after the Rift Herald charges. Nah, they're going to back off from this. I was hoping they would force it and then go for a dive under the tier 2 tower, get the kill, and get the tower, because that is an absurd amount of gold you would have been able to throw into your carry.
I think maybe if Henta hadn't made that earlier players, hold on, Rodo P getting charged onto the unstoppable throw. Team knocked up, taken down. Celebrity with the first kill of the fight. The reset means Artemis is now being... So Pallet just tanking up the tower, being a bro. Super Mega Death Rocket not there in time, just a kill.
Easy enough. The bottom side getting aggressed against, and DNK finding a strike on the other side of the map. Once again, it's Fuq 1 taking that Rift Herald, playing it at top side, and a response gank to the other side of the map for DNK. Trying to find what was Artemis. Artemis unfortunately had the flash and the 90 caliber net and the heal. Wasn't able to get his support out, but was able to keep his own life up. But at least there are strikes from SBTC getting something back in their pocket. Because again,
Shockwave, Yadao does land the charm onto Tutti, which means he can't go any further forward. That was... honestly, Rebel, a little bit close for comfort for me.
Yeah, It's definitely a much more close mid lane state here. It seems like 2T's a lot more comfortable on this Orianna than he was on the Veigar. Perhaps that's a situation where it's like, okay, Orianna's been a champion that's been in the meta forever. Like, she's never left. It's not fair. But Veigar is not somebody who's always in the meta. Veigar just kind of pops in every once in a while, usually as like a select pick. And so, especially like our analyst had alluded to, but prior to game number 1, we talked about how, okay, they might be scrimming on the modern patch. Maybe they've been working on Veigar a little bit. Maybe they haven't been working on Veigar as much, knowing they're going to be on 12-3. And so we don't know how much experience that 2T has actually had on Veigar in terms of competitive experience against this opposition. Clearly enough to pick it in game number 1, but perhaps not enough to really solidify himself into a position where he feels good on that champion, as opposed to this Orianna, which is looking great so far.
I don't think that either of these teams have really solidified themselves so far in this early game, though, Rebel, because 1-2 in terms of the kill store, gold advantage over to Cerberus. Both these compositions have scaling in pretty much every lane as it stands. This Ari possibly the only one that's going to get taken down. Yadao, it's hooked out beautiful from Pallet, and DNK secures the kill.
Really interesting decision making there from Yado, because again, the ultimate is available to take him actually higher up in the laning phase, so you can walk up towards your blue buff instead of walking down. I know that would have actually kind of probably infringed upon your ability to come back to the tower for a time being, and would have meant that they would have taken a couple of plates onto 2T. But the difference is that Palette has an angle to flash hook you if you go back towards your tower instead of fleeing upward. There's a reason you have that space above you, and it's to use it. So a mistake right there from Yado, unfortunately getting completely whiffed and getting brought down. Definitely not looking the way he did on the Sylas in game number 1. It's very early, obviously, so that it's not that big of an impact, but still, it's at least a notable difference in the perhaps it's the comfort of the play between, again, the Ahri and the Sylas.
And I think it's key that you point out that it isn't particularly similar to game 1. This has felt like SBT a little bit less just sort of over the objectives to Cerberus, which they used to snowball into that very, very rapid win. We must remember that in most of these quick, stompy style games, you've got big gold leads being accrued very, very early on. But that really wasn't the case. It was Cerberus playing around the map better, utilizing the map geometry and presence that they had to secure those leads, and meant that SBTC never really had a chance to get into the game. But as it stands, they are in a much better position this time around.
You're feeling a lot better about their position in a game like this. Because, again, they've got a very simple composition to try to execute as well. It's all that it takes is the ball being attached to either the Camille or the Hecarim to be able to throw them in.
Oh, flashes over that soul of player, but it's going to matter on that kill as Poss is being a great side. Not going to be able to survive much longer as the dive comes through in bot lane, and it's a second kill for Fook1. In that, Jinx is now going to be able to do a lot of damage to this tower, maybe even threaten it once the plates fall off.
Wow. Legitimately, utilizing Celebrity, the dive was nice because once they found the kill onto Palette behind the tower, there was no way that Celebrity was actually living through that. You see the damage there from 2T punishing. And the other side of the map, once again, a strike from DNK, reading the map properly to find something on the other side, while the jungler here from Cerberus is playing into the bottom side. The difference is Artemis is the one pulling gold yet again. I wonder if he got the kill during the course of this, whether Fook1 actually took this one in the end as well. It did end up going into the pocket of Fook1, even though the turret plates were split between them. So ends up being a pretty positive play altogether for the side of Cerberus. They get themselves a 1,500 gold lead somewhere in that rough area right here, even in exchange for Poss. But again, there are comfort things that are coming through for the side of SBTC that just weren't there in the previous game.
Ooh, DNK may have overstepped, able to run away very, very quickly with that pony. Emperor will join this fight now. Pallet throws out the death charge. In comes the hookshot wall dive. Can't even throw up the counter-strike. Second kill for Emperor.
Tragic situation. Boss getting kind of dogpiled here in the top lane just as fast as they can get here. And it's multiple members making that strike, which is interesting because the Jax had gotten off onto a pretty solid foot, is actually on relatively even itemization compared to Emperor. Emperor's got the double longsword with no completed boots versus the completed steel caps, which is, there's benefits and deficits to both of those things. But one way or another, the Jax and the Camille are relatively on the same footing. It's a question of what has Cerberus gotten in the rest of the lanes, right? Right now, 2T's doing fine, actually kind of winning out against Yado in the mid lane matchup. And so it to me comes down to bottom side, where it's like, okay, how much has Artemis got him? How much has Fook1 got him? How much are they going to be able to leverage those two champions into attacking the remainder of the map?
It's going to be difficult because I look at this Viego. can't really see an easy target that you can access onto. The Ori and the Jinx are going to be stood very far back, and if you're trying to 1v1 Emperor, if you're trying to 1v1 DNK, I don't think that you can take those champions down fast enough before you get collapsed on the other side. So I think Cerberus need to be careful how they're playing around vision, make sure that they're finding these flanks so they can actually assassinate these priority members of SBTC.
Yeah, this is the time where I think Yato has to start making an impact across the map. This is the first one he's going to have.
Well, he's doing it there. The Everthrust thrown out. DNK hasn't got a hope in hell. Pulse with that one. Bit of a freebie.
A little bit. Pretty nice to see as well to actually come out. Fukwon also on the hover in the mid lane means that, Paulette looking maybe for something aggressive, but the second Rift Herald gets dropped here as well. Oh my goodness, they're just snowballing this mid lane play.
Oh, rooted down under the tower, but crucially, Fukwon not taking the aggro. Now Celebrity is going to be the next target. Way too far forward. Here comes Emperor. The shockwave will not collect on over to Celebrity. The burn down from the Ignite from OP secures one over, and that means that Cerberus can continue to push for this Rift Herald. They get another charge going down.
Oh!
Connecting through onto Tutti as the Chompers are thrown out by Celebrity. Tower's going to be the focus, but here comes DNT. The Jax is gone. Celebrity gets the reset, but can't go further forward. Objective trades, kill trades, tower trades. Who's in favor?
And that's a situation right there where, like, SBTC, they're trying to salvage the best that they can right there in the mid lane, but they weren't able to get enough players together at one time to really make a meaningful kind of, push back against the play that was happening from Cerberus. Cerberus had three members entrenched there all at once, and at no point, right here, it's Paulette on his own, kind of at the front, Celebrity throwing in a few pot shots here and there, but that's about all you've got. Rift Herald starts tanking the tower as soon as Fukwon gets out, and that means that the tower is here. So now it's just Celebrity, who gets engaged on by Fukwon. He has to flash out the back. Now all of a sudden it's Emperor on the front line and nobody's there as well. 2T comes in from the side for a bit of support, but again, it's one by one by one by one. Now 2T is the only one that can stand forward, and it keeps going until the second tower goes down.
We're getting a deep T Rebel. Deep TP here from Yardo. Palette DNK going to be the focus. Celebrity but instant cleanses. The Everfrost, though, will lock down SBTC. DNK taken out first in that fight. Fook steals over the body, and Celebrity will be the next target. Double kill for the Viego.
Excruciatingly good teleport, and followed up by an amazing angle on the charm to be able to find a member in the backline. Celebrity, I don't know how in the world you could predict that you were going to get hit by that, but the fact that the cleanse came out so quickly meant that he knew that Yato is capable of that kind of thing. That was really amazing, and even though the cleanse comes out perfectly, they're still able to find the kill, all things said and done, which is big for the side of Cerberus. Now, what does it get you? Where are they at? Like, there's nothing on the map. Like, that's the one thing that kind of makes me mad about this. If there's a dragon, like, it gets you a kill, it gets you 2 kills, that's great. You get summoner spells at a Celebrity, that's another big thing, and you have a minute until dragon, so there is that. Pushing in the mid lane, pushing in the top lane, you get a couple of lane resets, but ultimately, it's like a very sexy play, but it didn't actually accomplish all that much, unfortunately.
Yeah, not got a great personality. I think probably the best way to describe it. A few wards placed by Cerberus in SBTC's jungle, but those are going to be cleared out, and they can continue to walk forward towards this dragon pit. Would be second Drake for either of these teams, so not one that you want to int for, not one that you're happy. If you could pick it up, not going to feel too bad about that one, and it is actually SBTC who currently have the inline track on River.
They do. They're the ones standing here, and they're the ones with the composition that are kind of really good at abusing when they've got the proper positioning, because it means that, of course, Orianna can control spaces really well. Oh, Poss kind of finds himself in the face of Emperor. That's not going to be too much. Engaging the other side.
Oh, who going in? Shockwave on to 2, and starting the fight well. If PC fan, that's already 2 kills. Artemis actually fairly happy to deal as much damage as we can, as Poss is getting 1v1 by Emperor. Fight. And despite the gold lead, SBTC have the position, and that means they can take the fight, and they can take the Drake.
I was a little hesitant at the beginning of that fight to say that 2T's ultimate was good, but it turned out really well because there wasn't much engage behind everybody else, right? If Rano P gets caught up in it, if Fook 1 gets caught up in it, and those two go down before any engage comes through, it means that there's no space for Artemis or Yato to really do a bunch of work. So while, yeah, Yato came close to finding something, Poss didn't go down and was actually doing okay in the one-on-one until he started fleeing from Emperor. Again, the two main kind of engage sources for this team going down right at the beginning off the back of 2T is a bit of heroics from him. So props to 2T on the Orianna, who again, performance this game has been a lot better. That was a great indication of it being able to deny any sort of counterplay into the river. It didn't even need the Hecarim, didn't need the ball delivery of the Camille either. Was just a really well placed kind of shockwave.
And now, if I'm an SBTC fan, I'm feeling pretty happy about how this game is going. The Caitlyn, the Leona, didn't shut down Celebrity in the early game. He's actually ahead 4-2-1 on the Jinx. Accelerating towards that third item as well. Your solo lanes are... Whilst on paper, Cerberus, they've got the gold lead. I think SBTC could be happy about where they are. Pallet, potentially overextending to clear out that control ward, but Cerberus don't want to pull the trigger. And now I'm all thinking about this Baron, because if there are a couple of picks off, if there is a team fight that goes heavily in one of these teams' favors, that Baron is a big objective that you can play towards.
Truly is. Both teams are wrestling away vision just to make sure that they have the angle on this. It's a really weird place to be in the game, just because it appears as though, like, Yato is playing this as a little bit more of a split pusher, kind of similarly to how he was playing the Sylas, which isn't as valuable as the Ahri. As the Ahri, I feel like you really want to try to contain space in the middle of the map. You want to be able to use your pick tools effectively to try to find members who are in the midst of rotation. I know you were pushing specifically for that to come through right here, but again, where are you at on the map? You're redeploying through mid lane. You're not finding any of these angles. You're not finding lapses of vision to punish against the side of SBTC. So the champion, it's good in team fighting, don't get me wrong, but one of the biggest values is that charm coming through fight.
Pallet engaging onto Fuquan, who's full Heartbreaker away. TP channeled in from 2T as well. Just ends up being a trade of cooldowns, but Baron still on the table. Mid lane priority being fought for very aggressively by both of these teams. They do not want to give this up. They do not want to give each other the opportunity to start up the big purple worm. Reset's just going to come through. No one's hyping.
Not at all. And again, the wave was pushed back out by 2T, and that's going to get caught by Yato, and he's going to push it back out. So this top wave just keeps getting bounced between the two mid laners back and forth, which to me is really important because, again, eventually this Baron's going to be a massive impact, and nobody's been able to split push effectively on the top side of the map here. I know Yato really wants to start it, and at some point he could be able to push really far and go for that top tower, but it might have to require some sort of bottom side pressure giveaway where, like you talked about, what would be the next dragon being perhaps the trade-off for that top tower and a lot of gold into your Ahri. Fights.
Pallet missing that hook and now just gets comboed down. Shockwave onto 2. There's a fair bit of damage and means that Emperor can rush for the rest of it. But he's taken low as well. The Gale Force more hit. Yardo secures that one too. Stopping here. DNK running away. The flash charm and a double kill for Yardo. 3 off the table. Cerberus go to Baron.
Yeah, see, right there, that's the value of Yato. Yes, he wasn't perhaps the greatest laning Ahri in the entire world. He hasn't been able to find any really legitimate picks outside of some of these fights, but inside of the fights, inside of the flanks that he's able to generate, he's looking great at using this charm effectively. And now, DNK is going to have to force something here just to make sure the Baron doesn't completely cause the disassembly of SBTC altogether. The Baron's down to 3,000 health. DNK is going to have to make a move, but they have full vision of him.
Hecarim still has the ult, and Celebrity is doing so much damage. Poss throws out the counter strike and takes down the Hecarim. Beautiful play by Cerberus. They secure the Baron.
Oh, really tragic. The rest of SBTC, Celebrity specifically, wasn't really in the area either. I was hoping they would be able to pair together some abilities and try to go for a steal, but it just ends up not being the case. Instead, Cerberus gets to walk out of that massively ahead now. They get themselves multiple kills. They get themselves the Baron buff, and all of this off the back of Colette missing this massive hook. He's trying to fish, and for what purpose? If you hit that, this is even worse for situation for yourself. And look at this. How many abilities missed? You missed the Emperor hook shot. You missed the ultimate coming out from Celebrity that could have put pressure into this team, and that means that you lose so much at the front end of this fight. Now it is no longer about the Shockwave winning out the fight for the side of SBTC, but instead the missing tools on the side of SBTC that go into the void that cost them the ability to win out in a fight like this.
Honestly, Rebel, it looked like a bit of a hands check there for me. SBTC tried to engage the fight, and their hands, I don't know if they were cold or something, but ultimately, player wasn't there. And now Cerberus have secured one of those big objectives, have secured not a decisive advantage, but one that they will not be upset about having. And with this push, it means that they can secure some more vision around this Drake, and the stacking that SBTC were sort of looking towards as a potential win condition, not really there anymore.
Taken away, definitely. because now the dragon count is tied at 2, so you got to wait another 10 minutes before you even have an opportunity at a soul point between one of these two teams. And the team fighting is really what you want, especially, right? It doesn't even matter if you go up to all 4 dragons. If you're giving them away in exchange for massive fights, SBTC is okay with that, because again, they've got the 5-on-5 composition. They want to be playing around the massive neutral objectives in a fair and reasonable fight, where they're able to put their Hecarim or their Camille alongside this Orianna and use those tools together. But unfortunately, now that's not even going to be an option. If Cerberus wants to, they could ignore the next Drake and use it as a bargaining chip to go for Baron, to go for Tower somewhere else on the map. And there's not really much that SBTC can do about that. Now they can't really fish for the fight that they're looking for.
Fuquan potentially fishing for Emperor. And do you know what? I really like those trades. I really like when a team recognizes, well, yeah, we don't need to fight for this objective. Maybe it does give soul point over, but if you're taking 1-2 inhibs, maybe some Nexus towers as well, it's a worthwhile trade.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any team that is willing to make the call not to contest a neutral objective has always won my heart, especially here in the VCS.
Emperor, though, contesting onto Rono P, who is locked in the Hextech ultimatum, goes golden to avoid the Death Rocket, and now the rest of Cerberus can join the fight. First kill for Fuquan as he's going to dive forward. Jinx, but it doesn't even matter, and this is what Cerberus do. One overstep, and they punish so hard.
And immediately, they've got a wave coming in, too. They've got 30 seconds on these members, and QT is the only one up and available. I think this is going to be the end of the game. I think this is going to be Cerberus taking this over SBTC. There were bright spots, but Cerberus were the dominating team on the day. What a series for them.
2T does have the shockwave. He's in a 1v5. He needs to make it. He gets it onto 3, but it's not going to be enough. Goes golden to buy a couple of seconds, but will just fall down. Pala hooking himself into another death. Cerberus turned it on in the mid game after that Baron, after a few picks. They turn it through. They take down the Nexus.